Hello. We're going to start on the side today. My plan is quite a bit of, we're going to do hips and shoulders, but we'll start out with the hips and we'll do some nice spinal movement. And yeah, so that's the plan for now. Have either a pillow or you can use your forearm for your head to support. And we're going to go ahead and just bend the knees. I'm going to pick up the low ribs a little bit and soften them back. So we're automatically a little bit in a rounded position. And looking for our hips. I'm going to take I'm on my right side. I'm going to take my left hand to my left hip and just suggest the hip a little bit forward. And if you look at your knees, you might see that the left knee is a little more, the top knee is a little more in front of the bottom knee, and that's okay. And then just allowing for the kidneys to come back, again, to soften and to lengthen the lumbar spine. And then you're going to start with little clamshells here and let them be little. They are meant to just talk to your external rotators in your hip. And they are little. They're really tiny muscle in comparison to the glutes or the hamstrings. And little muscles can really only do little moves. And yeah, we just have to respect that. You should feel this right in the center of your butt cheek. And again, you see my knee is not lifting much. My teacher, Irene, would always say, if your knee lifts a lot here, you will dance for Juilliard. Because that's almost a hip socket conversation. This needs to be you have a different hip joint, you're going to rotate more. And that's more of a genetic predisposition. Let's do this one more time. So we'll shoot for about 5 to 7 repetitions on each exercise. Okay, now we're going to go ahead into the abduction. We're lifting the leg, and you don't have to lift the leg super high. We're going to just lift it to the point where my top hip is not going to have to assist my leg. And I like keeping my hand here to know if this is what's happening. If your hand's coming closer to your shoulder, that's the wrong thing to do. We're trying to shorten this muscle here on the outside of the hip. And that's what pulls the thigh bone a little deeper into the hip socket. Little mouse house here, little lift on the underside. It's going to help you with alignment of the pelvis. Let's do this one more time. And I'm never counting because I just never learned how to count properly. And we're going to turn the leg. And now we're going to do internal rotation. Keep a little bend in that top knee so we're not locking out that joint and pushing beyond our range. We're going to turn the thigh bone more. So you could even keep the leg the knee that bend. You know, there is more of a reach. Maybe it's a little more glute work, a little more quad work. But knowing that you want to stabilize above the leg, the rib cage, the pelvis, the only thing that's really moving is that knee and the leg. And you can play around a little bit. Maybe you'll do a couple of where the knee is a little more bent, and then you're going to see, oh, can I pull that thigh into the hip socket? I'm going to go a little longer, a little straighter. So let's let this be the last one here. And then let's circle our leg. Put your hand on your buttocks here and really feel every time that leg pulls back, your butt should be engaged to some extent. You want to feel, and if it's not, Can you make it? Can you really think I'm going to turn on my glute to pull the thigh bone back? Can I keep the kidneys back? Can I keep the diaphragm back? And I'm still breathing. Let's reverse the circle. You should be already feeling this. I mean, I'm definitely feeling this. Maybe the leg is shaking a little bit, but you're going to keep breathing and you're going to say, up, I can do this. One more time. I'm going to bend the knee and lower down. Whoo. Oh boy. And then we're going to do this, the kicks. We're lifting up. You're going to straighten the leg, have a little internal rotation still here. And then we're going to swing the leg forward and pull the thigh bone back. Again here, your butt should be engaged. Leg swings forward and then the thigh bone pulls back. Easy on that knee joint. You don't have to flex the foot or point the foot. Keep the foot as relaxed as you can. If we point the toes here, we're actually taking work away from the butt. You could try it, like make that foot something and even your shin, and then see how this changes. So the more relaxed we are below, really below the hip joint, the more work your hip and your butt has to do. Very good. And then bend the knee and lower down. Feel that. Maybe you need to kind of give it a little like hello, tap it. And then we'll stay here for two more things. You can keep that. Hopefully it's still comfortable, your forearm underneath your head. And we're going to straighten both legs here. And we're going to take the top foot a little bit in front of the bottom foot. So there's a little scissor stance. And this should just kind of help to stabilize the hip, actually, like having that hip slightly forward, because as we're moving now, the hip will want to go back. So there's just your kickstand here. And then reach your left hand up to the ceiling, or the top hand up to the ceiling, and just look at it. You're going to just breathe here and start to reach more energetically rather than locking through the knee. Reach through both heels, back up the kidneys, and then keep looking up here. As you reach through both heels somewhat without locking the knee, your buttocks should start to turn on. And you want that. What we want really here is with our glutes to stabilize the sacrum, the SI joint, and to not rotate into that or into the lumbar spine. That's why I still think I'm keeping my ribs a little forward, especially the bottom ribs, and really only my head and neck are rotating up. Breathe and see if you can take the breath wide into the ribs, to the side and to the back. You might even hear a little, like I just heard a little pop there, just a little, not a bad thing. We don't want to look for it or want to elicit a pop when we're rotating our spine, but the breath can just open things up in there. And then maybe over time, your hand goes a little bit further back, but only if your head can follow. Let's breathe here for 2 more breaths. Are you still reaching through your heels? Is your leg on, buttocks? Maybe you're just looking up to the ceiling, which would be totally okay. And then slowly come out of this, just coming back onto your side. And then we're going to do one more thing here. You're going to take your hand and put it onto your shoulder. Now, if you have really awesome shoulders with no issues, you can keep this with a straight arm. But we're going to do this with a bent arm, because most of us have some sort of a shoulder thing these days, including myself. Okay, so putting the hand here is going to just shorten your lever. Shorter lever, less work. We're going to take the elbow forward And you're going to take the elbow up towards your head. And don't worry about range of motion here. And then let your head follow a little bit and look at that elbow forearm. And then we're going to go ahead. And so we're basically making arm circles here. Just easy, soften the kidneys back, keep your buttocks somewhat engaged. If you liked having your legs straight, you can totally do this with straight legs. Breathing. So there's a minimal amount of movement in the ribs. But as I reach my elbow forward, my shoulder blade widens. And as I reach the elbow to the ceiling, my shoulder blade comes into the spine. One more time, this direction. Again, if you could try it a little bit with a straighter arm, but especially when your arm goes back, and I would say most of us, let's just keep it bent. You don't want to stretch into your pec here, right? We're going to reverse it. Take the elbow up to the ceiling. You can follow with your eyes and then down and forward. And here, as you see, my elbow is almost, it's not here, but it's really close to my head. Elbow goes close to the floor and back. One more time, easy breath. Looking at that elbow, looking at the hand, forearm, and then release that and just come and lie on your back. Of course, it's empty. That's ridiculous. Oh, I hope they're going to fix this road. Little negative PR. Okay, so feel this out for a second. How does your top side, which was my left side, maybe it was your right side, compare to the other side? Start with the leg, go up to the pelvis, your lower back, and then even compare the width of the collarbone, the shoulder. How's your breath from left to right? Maybe there is a little more space in there, a little more release. And maybe your glutes are a little more turned on, actually. So that would all be kind of a good sign that we did something really nice here. Okay, so let's go to the other side. I'm going to flip around here. And again, here, if you want, you could put your head on a pillow, right? That is an option. If your shoulder is slightly compromised, yeah, maybe Elaine, put a pillow underneath your head so you don't have to crunch it up too much. All right, so here we go. We start with our bent knees. Sits bones reach back. I'm sticking my butt a little out, and then take the diaphragm back just to make sure the lumbar spine is not too arched. I'm taking my right hand, my top hand, and bring that top hip slightly forward. And I'm going to start my little clamshells. And again, let them be little. Don't worry if this is, it could be just this much, half an inch or an inch of lift. Totally fine. And what I like to sometimes do is like, I lift a little bit and then I say, okay, but how much more work do you have to lift more? Because if we right away go into a big lift, we're not going to have more range if we're already beyond what those muscles can actually do. Good. Let's do one more here. Find it in the rotators, maybe even find your pelvic floor here. There is a contraction internally that helps, or that has to happen in conjunction with the outer rotators. Okay, now we're going to lift the leg. Can you keep a little mouse house on that underneath rib cage half? And we're just letting that gluteus medius pick up the leg. Very nice. Yeah. It's very good. So the knee, the shin, and the foot, they're all in one line. So it's just abduction. There's no rotation now in here. We always try to do all three possibilities: internal rotation, external rotation, and abduction. Very good. Almost feel like you want to resist the leg. Can you imagine you can push the ceiling up with that leg and then resist the leg coming down? Should be just a little more effort. Now on the next one, we keep the leg lifted here. We're lifting up to abduction and then turning in, internal rotation, reaching the leg away, and then bend the knee and lower down. Very good. And lift and turn. Yeah, make sure that knee does not go fully straight. Feel still some hamstring work. You want to keep the back of the leg on. If we shut out the hamstrings, the quads win, and that's your hyperextension. And we want to give the hamstrings a chance. That could be a nice t-shirt. Give your hamstrings a chance. Lift, turn, pull the thigh into the hip socket, pull the thigh bone back, find your butt, find your hamstrings. I can start to feel it. 2, find your breath. And last one here, maybe take a longer break. We're going to go right into the circles. Make sure your top hip is stable, top kidney is back. And then every time that leg goes back, you got to feel your butt. Is the butt pulling your leg back? That's what its job is. 2 more like that. Celebrate that leg and then reverse it. Backing up the kidneys. Are your shoulders relaxed? Or the shoulders up to the ear? Just check it out. The body wants to always do everything for you. It's so bizarre. I mean, it's good and it's good, right? If something doesn't work properly, the brain finds a way to recruit other things. It's just not in the long run the best thing to do. Now we're going to lift the leg back up. Sits bones back, kidneys back. So kind of softening the wrinkles in the shirt. Have some wrinkles in the shirt here. And then reaching out, and we're going to kick forward and backward. Again, notice I can tell for my own body, I always push into that right knee. That's just my preference. So can I get the pressure out of the knee and get the work up where the butt and the thigh bone meet? We talked about the thud a couple of weeks ago. So right that crease where the joint is, that's what you want to really pay attention to. Do 3 more. Good, last one. Easy in the foot and the shin. Keep backing up the kidneys. The more the leg goes back, the more the kidneys have to follow. So in a way, nothing's really moving besides your leg. Very good. Take a break. Check it out. Should be kind of nice and tingly. And then we're going to straighten the legs. I'm going to take the top leg slightly in front and bend the knees a little bit, right? So we're not right away in the locked position. We're going to have them a little soft and then just say, I'm reaching through the heel. And that should turn on your butt no matter what, not even straightening through the knees. And then take your top hand up to the ceiling. You're going to look at it. You're going to soften the kidneys back. The belly is on. Top hip maybe even a little more forward, and then find your buttocks here. If the reaching through the heels is not going to cut it, squeeze your butt here for a second. And then you're going to just look at that hand, and we're breathing. the rotation in the head and neck, just to go straight to the ceiling, is actually very close to our maximum spinal rotation. Most people are here. So it's all good. We're gonna breathe, and we're gonna say, I'm just gonna look at my hand. And then maybe the hand goes a little further back, but do not go further than, 4 inches from straight up. We're not meaning to stretch this arm and pec. The arm is heavy in the socket, and we're just following the hand with our eyes. 2 more breaths. Can you send the breath back into the ribs, into the kidneys, into the spine, and then slowly unrotate. Keep a little work there, a little tone, and then maybe you want to bend your knees again. And we're going to do the other and do our arm circles. So here you can have the straight-ish legs or bent knees. I kind of like the straight-ish legs because I can feel what my hip is doing. So just cupping with your fingertips, the top of the shoulder here, top of the arm bone, and we're going to reach the elbow forward. That's what's going to take the shoulder blade around the rib cage. And then you're going to reach that elbow up. You can follow with your eyes. Elbow goes down towards your ribs, and then the ribs soften forward as you reach your elbow again. And maybe you can feel the blade here. You want to, the shoulder blade, as the elbow goes down towards your ribs, the shoulder blade goes down. And as the elbow reaches forward, the shoulder blade widens and comes around the rib cage. And if just one thing for this, try not to go 100% range of motion, like really pull, just make it, it's easy. It's not 100% effort. We're gonna do one more in this direction. And let's reverse it right there. Are your glutes still on? Are you breathing? Follow the elbow with your eyes without cranking head and neck. We'll do one more circle. Very good. All right, and then turn onto your back again, lie on your back. And just check it out. Now, hopefully we're even. That'd be good. Maybe the top side feels a tiny bit longer than the bottom side, the last top side. But check out your collarbones. Check out even your neck, lower back, legs. How freely do they rotate? Okay. And then bend your knees. If you need a little pillow underneath your head, put a little towel there if your chin comes too high. Yeah, not too high with the head that your head is super lifted off the floor. We want to kind of mimic, we're just lying on our backs with no support, but because of postural issues, spinal issues, we might have to support. So here we go. We're going to challenge the abdominals. We're going to drop the sits bones. Do a couple of pelvic tilts, actually. Just kind of feel, how is my hip moving? Is the right hip and the left hip, are they both doing the same thing at the same time? Are they moving evenly fast? And I would like to encourage you to always rein in the faster side and the side that goes further. And this is, you just first even have to know, is there a faster side? Is there a further side? This is very I think it's one of the more important things to figure out for your body. Do I have hypermobility? And we all do, one place or another, because we're living life, right? We're not just 5 years old where everything is still really perfect. And then we'll drop the sits bones slightly. So there's a little anterior tilt, a little more of a back bend. And then we're going to take the kidneys to be heavy. Now, if the heaviness of the kidneys starts to pick up your chin, that's the sign that you need a bit of a pillow underneath your head as well. So if you don't have that, get it, grab it. It's much easier. It's much better for us if we don't spend our abdominal work here. So here we go. Sits bones, kidneys heavy. We're going to pick up one leg. We're going to let that thigh bone really drop down into the hip socket and then pick up the other leg. And let the shins be actually heavy right now. Like really feet really close to the ground. Yeah, bend the knees quite a bit. Just barely a lift off the floor. And then check in with the shoulders. Can you pull the shoulder blades just a little more into the ground, keeping the skull heavy on the floor without lifting the chin up? Sits bones heavy. And then I'm going to drop my right foot just almost to touch the ground, and then I'm going to pick it back up. So it's not really touching the ground. I'm going to tap the left foot, just maybe tiny touch here, and then I'm going to pick it back up. So there is quite a bit of work here in the core. It's not big. And do one more time each side, just 1 foot at a time. And go slow, go so slow that you can feel if your kidneys are lifting away from the floor. Because that's the sign, I'm going to lower the feet down, that you would be doing a back bend here. And we don't want to back bend here. If you back bend, if your ribs popping up, you're actually in your lower back or in your middle upper back. We want to control the spine here and the pelvis and just move the legs. Yeah, so we'll come back up. You're going to lift one leg and then the other leg. Let the feet be really close to the ground. Yeah, yes, exactly. So here we go. We're going to do both legs at the same time. Now, don't go far. Really check out how far can you take both feet to the ground and then hinge again into the hip joint. Both feet coming down a little bit. Try not to just do this, right? That the toes try to touch. You're gonna find the movement in the hip hinge. And both legs at the same time are gonna be so much harder to do. Keep your kidneys heavy. You really should be shaking here. You should feel your abdominals quiver. And maybe both heels touch and maybe not. Let's do one more time. I can tell I'm quivering here. My abdominals are definitely saying, what is going on? Very good. And then lower one foot and the other foot, and then take a little check-in. Just let the legs lengthen, let the feet turn out, knees turn out, and just feel that. Okay. That should feel kind of nice and I don't want to say tight, but toned here in the hip joint. And that's what we want, right? Because we want that deep fold. We want that strength here to lift the leg up. So last thing here, we'll come back into a table. And this time, let's actually go into the 90-90 shape. Thigh bone to shin bone and thigh bone to hip joint. And we're going to pull the shoulders down into the ground, find the bra strap and the diaphragm heavy again. Again, that should maybe even set that little quiver up, and then reach the heels up to the ceiling. No straight knees, right? We're just going to go really little pulses here. The straighter or the longer your legs get, the more you have to work on your kidneys and diaphragm to be heavy. bend and reach. And this is really all just experiential. Feel. Like, do you feel how the low back comes up off the floor as you reach your heels? Just feel it. And then she's like, can I not do that? Maybe my knees don't go as straight. And maybe I don't go as far, or I have to work harder in my belly to keep the kidneys down. And maybe it's a combination. It's probably a combination. Very good. Nice. Work those shoulders. Keep the kidneys heavy. Keep bending and extending. You could do little pulses here. We don't want to just tire out one thing. Yeah. And then bend the knees and release. Great. Beautiful. All right. So let's come on up. And I want you, so we're going to do quite a bit of shoulder loading today, I would want to call it. Just kind of seeing, can I use, and actually we'll stay. So here's my microphone. It says it's fully charged. We'll see how long that takes or lasts. We're going to actually for a moment just come to sitting in this a little bit more of an awkward shape here. I have my right foot in front and my right leg in front and my left foot in front of my right foot. Oh boy, left and right. And then you're going to take your right hand down. You're going to slide that shoulder blade back and just see if you can just put a little bit of weight, grab on with your fingers. Don't let that shoulder come up. Just going to have a little weight. Now, if you feel like if your shoulder is good, which might be some people, right? Maybe you lift your hip up a little bit. You're going to set it back down. But it's really, especially Elaine here, right? I want you to just barely start weight bearing with a long elbow, right? We're not going to have the elbow here. I want to try and lengthen that elbow, but I'm not going to hyperextend my elbow. Just going to go little lifts. And this is always a good coming back to exercise. Good. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Left leg in front, right foot on the floor. We're going to draw that shoulder blade back and down. In a way, we're kind of locking it in. I hate, in a way, the term locking it in because we shouldn't lock anything, but I'm not going to let it come up. I'm going to bend the elbow a little bit, little biceps, and I'm going to lift up. Or I'm just going to say, can I bear some weight on it? Can I load it a little more? And if that feels good, you might be able, you're going to push with the right foot to lift that left hip up. Yeah, that's it. And then lower down. Now really check in, is the shoulder coming up at any point? You don't want that shoulder to come up at any point. You want to keep the lat fully engaged down so we're not coming up here. It's quite a bit of work. One more time. Very good. And then lower that down. Now let's come all the way up to standing. Very good. Okay. Okay, so we'll do a forward bend. Let's see how I'm going to do this. I'll do this side. So feet are parallel. And that's always the first thing when we come up into, standing. Where are my feet? And maybe one foot is more turned out than the other. And just also, that's a really good way to become aware of what's my pattern. And not judging it, but just saying, oh, wow, look at that. Like I'm always standing like this, maybe. And maybe that's why my hip doesn't feel so good, or I don't, it's all part of what we do a lot of. That's what the body responds to. So we're turning the legs in a little bit. The big toes are a little narrower than the heels. And then bend your knees and then do a forward bend. So allowing for the spine to drape over the thigh bones, let your head be heavy, and you're going to look through your legs. Make it a point that you're looking behind you, through your shins, through your knees. And then find your breath. Grab on with your feet, with your toes to the floor. The whole foot is really engaged. And you might feel, if you pay more attention or put more effort into the foot, that you actually have to work your legs harder. If your feet are just, it's not going to be the same as if you say, I am pushing down with my feet. And then let the head be heavy. Let the arms just hang here, and then slowly rounding your spine. Pulling down with your feet. You're going to slowly come up. Notice when you come up, are you pushing the hip forward? Or can you keep the hip slightly behind you? And then it's the straightening, the quads is what takes you all the way upright. I'm going to bend the knees again and send the pelvis back, and we're going to round forward again. If you do one thing a day, honestly, do a forward bend. That is just what we're looking for, the creasing in the hip, the weight bearing, the legs showing up, the glutes showing up. So here we go again. We're going to push the feet down into the floor to turn on the legs more. Can you think you're pushing the earth down? And just see, wow, if I visualize it, if I think about it, I actually get a direct response. Keep your neck long. You're looking through your legs. And maybe your fingertips are on the floor. You don't have to, but that could be a nice little assisted kickstand here. Find your breath. And start to shift slowly side to side. And you want to think, you can add effort if you think I'm pushing my feet to the opposite side. So I'm pushing my feet to the left, and my body kind of gently sways to the right. Keep lifting your kidneys, keep letting your head drop, and you're pushing your feet to the right, and your body is swaying to the left. Lift the kidneys, find your obliques here, and then come to center. Keep the knees bent, shift fully into your feet, and slowly round yourself up. Very good. So we're going to do one more like that. We're going to add a little bit on. Bending the knees, sending the sits bones back, creasing the hip, lots. Rounding the spine, let the head be heavy right away. And I know this is very hard because the brain loves to know where it's going. So we tend to look down to the floor. But that is really still engaging the back of the neck, which is what we're doing probably a lot of all day, every day. And we want to let that head go, the neck go. Now, you're going to put your hands on the floor, and you could just put your fingertips on the floor here. But if you can, bend the knees so much that your palms could touch the floor. And if that's hard, yes, it's quads, it's hamstrings, it's glutes, it's hips, it's everything. See what you can do. You could even take blocks and put your hands on blocks so that you're coming higher. And you're going to go ahead and turn the palms out a little bit and your elbows in a little bit. And then we're going to just shift forward and backward. Very, very little. I'm trying to keep that head heavy. I'm looking through the legs, and I'm starting to do a little bit of weight bearing into my hands, arms, shoulders. Beware of hyperextension in your elbows. Turn on your biceps, grab on with your fingers to the floor as much as you can. One more time, breathe it. Yep, the legs are on. They're definitely on. And then shift back fully into your feet. Push the earth down. Pull your feet more behind you. And then come all the way up to standing. Very slowly, find your breath here. You want to keep breathing so you're not spinning out here. Very good. So that is another great way of starting to get a little more responsibility for the shoulders, right? It's hard. I mean, right now I'm working on handstands yet again. I've been working on handstands for 15 years now. Still not happening, but I'm not giving up. So I know it's kind of weird, upside down, weight on the hands. It's crazy. But the more we can challenge it, it's really, really awesome for the shoulders. So we'll add a bit onto this. Let's say we're going to take, let's say the right foot forward. We're going to go asymmetrical stance, right foot forward, left foot back. The left heel is going to be lifted up. We're going to bend the knees. So there's first always this. Find the crease here. Hip, knee, ankles. And then you're going to come down and you're going to put your left hand right next to the right foot. You know, maybe like 8 inches apart, right under the shoulder. The right hand can be anywhere it's comfortable. Put it maybe on your right glute. And then you're going to just push. Let the head be heavy. Your left hand into the floor, into the earth. Imagine, just imagine you want to pick up your feet. And then bend the knees. Get out of that for a second. Come up or go down. You can come down into the crouch and then push with that left hand, let the head drop and just see what, you know, what amount of work you can come up with here. Maybe you pick up 1 foot, right? But that could be fairly down the line. And then crouch back down or come up. It's all about loading the hand fully, having your fingers be part of this, your arm, your shoulder. Maybe one more time. Push down, head is heavy. And because you're working here with your feet are on the ground, so you're definitely not going to overdo it. But be your own fair judge. And then slowly coming up. And just check out your legs. I mean, heck, it's legs, right? Shake it out. And then we'll do the other side. So left foot is in front. You're going to bend the knees, asymmetrical stance. And then see how maybe you have to bend more here. That's okay. Turn the palm a little bit out, fingers facing away from that left foot. Elbow rotates in. Let your head be heavy. And you can have the most minimal amount of work here. Just see if you can plant the hand on the floor. Don't even think about anything pushing, right? Elaine, especially. Are we able to flex at the wrist, at the hand? And breathe here. Everybody else, hello, of course. If you want to say, I'm going to think of going into a one-armed handstand on my right side, go for it. And then sit back down or come back up. You're going to shift forward, let your head drop, load the hand with as much weight as you can. Make sure that right shoulder blade is wide. It's not coming up to your ear. Get out of it. Keep a little tone in the hand. If you sit down, if you come up, of course you take it out. And then we'll do one more time. And maybe if your hand feels really good, if your shoulder feels good, you might want to lift up one leg. Just play around with it. One more breath. And then slowly coming up, pull with your feet, round the spine, work the buttocks on the right side. Beautiful. Excellent. All right, let's come back down to the floor. And we're going into I think we did mermaid last week. Gosh, I forgot now. We're gonna come into just a cross-legged position. My right foot is in front here. If mermaid feels better to you, go for mermaid. All cool. Because we're gonna start to load the shoulder even a little bit more. But first, we're gonna do 3 cat and cows. Yeah, sit on something, a bolster, pillow, blanket, anything that you don't feel like you're already starting here. You want to be able to sit fairly effortlessly upright. That might mean a bolster. It doesn't matter. All right, here we go. So hopefully, as you're sitting here, you can feel your buttocks rooting down, and that's where your sits bones are in. If you're sitting here, you're actually sitting behind your sits bones. We want to say, can I tilt my pelvis forward to root my sits bones straight down or slightly in front? All right, here we go. Allow for the pelvis to roll back, and we're going to reach our hands forward. So here we were already here, right? Upside down, hands on the floor in a way. Looking down towards your pelvis, the shoulders are wide, the kidneys roll back. We have a nice evenly rounded spine, and then initiate. Look at your buttocks. Look at your pelvis, and see if you can initiate from here to come up. Squeezing the shoulder blades. Now looking up slightly. Keep the diaphragm back. Full on belly engagement. There's a chaturanga in yoga. Upward dog, I guess. Upward dog in yoga. And then let the pelvis roll first again. So here's our cat spine. Big breath. And then we're going to use the pelvis first. Try it. And it might not happen today, but keep the effort going for it. And then sits bones pull back, lift your heart, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Cow spine, extension. Back up the diaphragm. If you don't feel your belly here, more diaphragm back. One more time, pelvis rolls back, round the spine. Open the ribs, intercostals. And then pull the sits bones back. So pelvis rocks forward. Shoulders squeeze together. Bra strap stays back. Pull the knees a little more apart. Turn the buttocks on. Look up to the ceiling as much as possible, lifting the chin, lifting the heart. Squeeze the blades and release that. So we want to get as much. We want to choose when to stabilize the spine and when to mobilize the spine. That's really what Pilates is. Like, you just make a choice. We say we move it in the cat and cow, and then we stabilize it and we do a plank, right? So that's always back and forth, back and forth. So right foot is in front, left hand is on the floor. And you could start to actually, take that right foot down to assist what we're going to do here. But you can also keep the foot here. This is a lot of opening. I'll tell it right away. It could be tougher on that left outer ankle because you have to really open that up. Right outer ankle. We'll see. So shoulder blade comes back we're setting it onto our rib cage. I'll keep this down so you can see this maybe. My hand is about 10 inches away from my hip, and I'm going to pull it back as I do a little bend. Yeah. Notice if it wants to be here. Pull it down and back. Lock the lats in again, and then pushing up. Do this quite a bit. Back up the kidneys. So there's a little forward bend and a little side bend involved in this whole thing. The further you go down, pay attention to your thumb and index fingers. Don't roll off of them. Make sure they're really heavy. Use your whole hand. And this might be the most challenging thing, to use the whole hand, actually. Very interesting how we weight bear. We'll do 3 more. Draw that shoulder blade back. Maybe you're coming further down, you know. Maybe you need to use your right hand as a little kickstand on the left. This is all good, but starting to load the shoulder without elevating the shoulder. Looking down. Maybe even, let's do one more. You're going to look over your left shoulder, letting the head turn more, and then come all the way up. Just check it out. Boy, I can see my left shoulder is like an inch further down than my right shoulder. So by activity in the shoulder depressors, remember, it's always good to have depressed shoulders. You're gonna get out of the entanglement in the neck, this, right? So we'll do the other side. We're gonna cross left in front of right now. We're going to do our 3 cat and cows, rounding the spine. Big breath, widen the ribs, widen the shoulder blades, and then pull the sits bones back. Squeeze the shoulder blades. Really work on the sits bones down and back. Turn on your butt, and then look up, back up the diaphragm and the kidneys. So the looking up is actually a lot of neck. Start with your pelvis, rounding the spine, looking at your pubic bone, shoulders widen, and then sits bones pulling back. And again, it's not in the lumbar spine. You have to find that opening in the upper back. And last one, pelvis first. Find your cat spine. Big breath. And then initiating from the hip. I can't say it often enough. Keep the diaphragm back. Squeeze the shoulders. Lift your heart. Lift your chin. And release. Very good. Okay, here we go. Right side. And you can, again, if this is too much for the ankle, put the foot down. Turn the hand out a little bit. We don't want to be here, because see what happens. The moment I turn my hand in, my shoulder turns forward. I got to turn the hand out. And then just a little bit, tiny bit. Start by just thinking I'm drawing that shoulder down the back. I'm literally opening that collarbone. Thumb and index finger, super heavy. Back up the kidneys. You can make this as little as you want. You could just sit here and think, I'm just going to shift a tiny bit into my hand and feel what wants to show up. And this is, this, honestly, you could do this every day. Just tiny little pulses. And because we're having our hand on the floor, the brain is not freaked out by this. Not too much, let's say, right? It's challenging. It's, when do we ever spend time on our hands like that? But it's free weights or something free is always way more freak out mode for the brain, because it doesn't really know. It knows here the ground is safe, it's stable, it's not moving. And then if this feels good, you can start to increase your little push-up. You can use your left hand on the floor as well to assist you in that. Maybe, Elaine, take that left hand over to the right knee and really come onto the right hip. Yeah, and squeeze the shoulder, and just have that left hand be a little kickstand for you. Let the left hip come up. Squeezing and pushing. Keep the work in the arm. Notice if your head wants to do this. If when your elbow is bending, it's more your head dropping. Yeah, or is it your elbow bending? It is tricky because the brain says, yeah, you want me to go to the floor? Heck yeah, I can do that. And then the head drops. So just really becoming so aware of what's going on. Let's do 2 more like that. Or 3 more. Very good. And then come all the way back up. Maybe just let the legs lengthen here and feel, how does the shoulder compare? Definitely noticing they're a little more even now. Awesome. Very good. We did it. You can lay on your back for a moment if you still have some time. Just kind of check it out and enjoy what we just worked. And thanks for joining. I'll see you soon. Bye.